Hippolyta heads to Devon County, Ruby finds out William/Christina's truth, and Tix starts to decipher the pages from the Book of Names. Stay tuned as we discuss all that and more in this week's episode of Blerd Up Reviews, Lovecraft Country, Episode 7, I Am.
Welcome back to another episode of Blerd Up Reviews, where we talk about all things movies, music, TV, and gaming with a blurred twist. We're your hosts. I'm Killer Cam.
And I'm Monique.
And we're back with another Lovecraft Country breakdown. Episode 7, I Am.
Mm-hmm.
I say this every episode, you guys.
That's what I was like, waiting for. I was waiting for you to say this.
This is my favorite episode. Oh my gosh, this was my favorite episode. And I say that with confidence up until this point, and I'm almost like overly excited because it's like it just keeps getting better and better.
It does. I'm pretty sure next week we're all gonna come back here and be like, "This is my favorite episode." But
yeah.
Like you said, the episodes keep getting better and better, and like I feel like the first couple of episodes we thought it was gonna fizzle out because there was so much going on in those episodes. However, Misha Green has been up in the ante every single week, and we love her and thank her for that because these episodes have given me life.
Yeah.
These past couple of months, you know.
Yeah, Misha, she's a beast, man.
Mm-hmm.
Pumping this out, she's a beast, and just to kind of like throw some extra oomph behind it, this is a lot different from the book. You know, so these are storylines that are being expanded from that novel that she's written and put together. You can't, oh my God, you just can't. You can't beat that. And another thing that I really appreciate about how she's written these episodes is every character is getting their shine.
Yeah.
You know, every actress is getting their opportunity to show what they've got. And you know, me and you for Hippolyta, we've been waiting for this episode since we first saw the Comic-Con trailer. Holy crap, what's about to happen?
So ready and so glad that we got to finally see this episode with Hippolyta, which I've been calling her Hippolyta because I like that name better, but found out this episode it's Hippolyta, so I apologize. Y'all don't drop into the comments and try to correct me. I am so sorry, but it is Hippolyta. But
I know why you say it that way, though. In Italy, so we grew up in Italy, and in Italy the curriculum is Greek and Roman mythology. And that's how the Italians used to say it. Okay. So that's you probably don't remember that, but that's why I didn't fight it when you said it, because that's why. Okay. But most definitely love this episode. Been waiting for it, and I cannot wait to dive in because I'm just like, first day of school. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so ready. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we're gonna jump into this breakdown. But again, before we do that, thank you to everyone who's been liking and subscribing to our videos, our channel, specifically this breakdown. We've received such positive feedback from all of our Blerd friends and family who have been dropping down in the comments and just, again, you know, sharing their theories about what's happening in this series. You guys, it truly makes a difference. We love to hear that from you guys. So please keep that going. A couple of shout outs I did want to do to some of our new subs. So we've got Mary Miller, Kamara Harrington, SLR, and Donovan Gregory. They have been really active in those comments and all great theories. And just remember, guys, we encourage you to make comments. We encourage you to interact with everyone on the comment board. And again, there's no right or wrong answers when it comes to these theories, because I feel like the show, as it's progressing, we're getting the answers we need, but it still doesn't stop us from using our imagination to try to figure it out. This is a safe space, so ain't nobody gonna clown you for any theory you might have. So if you're new and you're just stumbling onto this channel, definitely please make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. As a new channel, it does help us grow. And again, just don't hesitate to drop in the comments. We encourage it. Lovecraft Country. Yeah. Episode 7.
Yep, I am.
This episode.
So we open up this episode with Hippolyta. And to me, I don't know if you noticed this, but she's, to me, seems, you know, rightfully depressed still, because George is gone, and I kind of feel like she's at this point uncertain as to what she's doing in her life and what are her next steps in her life. So
she's grieving still.
Yeah.
And what's normal in the grieving process, especially under the circumstances it happens, she's found something to kind of keep her brain busy. And it's almost like she's getting frustrated with that because she's not necessarily figuring it out the way she wants to, but really it's just kind of like a transference of the grief that she feels.
Right.
But we see her with this Ori.
Yep.
Trying to figure it out.
Yep. And it actually cuts back to 3 days before we see her messing with the Ori in her room, where she drove to Devon County with Dee. Thank goodness nothing really bad happened to them. But they do find the remains of the lodge. And within the lodge, they do find Dee's comic that was given to George in the very first episode, the comic, the Orinthia Blue comic. So at this point, Hippolyta's like, I know Tick and Leti have lied to me. I know this had whatever this is, this rubble around me had to do with George's death. I am not going to. And she also finds a piece of rubble, I guess, that has a symbol that the Ori has on it. So she knows the Ori has something to do with George's death. So this is why we can see her again in the room trying so hard to unlock that Ori.
Yeah, and you could tell, like, when they told her how he died, she didn't believe them.
Yeah.
You know, she didn't believe them. But the thing that was really interesting, because I saw it happening, because it happens to a lot of us. Sometimes we'll be stressed and we'll be thinking about a problem so hard, and then some weird occurrence puts it all into perspective. She literally laid on the bed in, like, desperation and looked at it sideways and realized, oh, the planets move. They're not going to be able to move unless they're tilted to rotate on their on the axis that they rotate, basically.
Yeah.
She works it out.
Yeah.
The Ori works.
Yeah, she unlocks it.
And she gets a key.
Yeah.
With some coordinates.
I think when she does finally unlock the Ori, the message she finds on it is every beginning is in time and every limit of extension in space. And then there are coordinates in there and a key.
Yeah.
So.
Now, the thing about that quote, though, I tried to look it up to see if it related to something in history, as this show often does. I couldn't find anything. So in my head, I've got it flagged. That's going to come back to mean something in the future episodes.
Okay. All right.
So
next scene we jump to is Ruby and Christina. Ruby's finally down in the basement where we actually see the bodies of both William and the sheriff from Devon County. They're both dead.
Yeah.
Christina admits to Ruby that she made the potion out of their blood.
Yeah.
And Ruby at this point is just like, you lied to me. I can't take these lies anymore. I want to know everything.
Yeah. And furthermore, here's the thing that I really found endearing about this scene. Christina tells her the truth, basically.
Yeah.
Now, there's certain things she's kind of all omitted for her plan, but she's never really been a liar, you know? Ruby was upset, thinking that, okay, so you played me with this William character, and Christina confirmed. She was like, no, everything that happened with me as William was real, which I like that, because for a while I was wondering, like, what's happening here?
What's their relationship?
But I think what we've seen as these episodes have started to progress, that sexuality in this series by itself is really, it doesn't mean anything, honestly.
Yeah.
You know, so why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Go ahead.
The other thing that Christina made very clear was she pointed out that the reason this whole thing started is because she wanted to learn magic, but because she was a woman, her father would not teach her. So she seduced William into teaching her how to do the magic. This spell, this blood magic, was actually one of his spells that she taught him. When asked about kind of like the end game, she was like, well, it started off as this, but now I know what I'm fully capable of and what I fully deserve, and I want it, which is a theme throughout this episode. So I appreciated that scene.
Yeah, I did. We end off the scene, though, with, again, Ruby wanting to know everything about what's going on. Christina tells Ruby about the Book of Names and the Order of the Ancient Dawn, but she also adds in there, this has to do with the Book of Names and your family.
Right.
Hint.
Hint.
Yeah. Because up until now, it's been about Tick and his family.
Right.
So
there were a few theories. So yeah, I kind of randomly saw some comments on Facebook. Y'all gonna stop trying to spoil stuff on Facebook for people who don't watch it at the time it comes on. But people are like, oh, what if Leti and Tick are related? And I'm like, that you guys, come on, let's not get that imaginative.
I actually thought that too, though. When I was trying to think of what she meant by that, that popped into my head, and I was like, no, they can't be going this way, can they?
I immediately thought, which comes back to the episode, that Leti's pregnant. Because if that's the case, she's family now. They're all family at that point.
I think we'll find out more in the upcoming episodes.
Yeah.
Again, that was another solution that I thought of too. However, you never know.
You really never know.
You never know. So I guess we'll find more about that in the next episode.
Yeah.
The next thing we cut to is Leti having a dream. The same dream that Tick was having in previous episodes where, he's running through the lodge, or she's running through the lodge now, and she's following after Hannah. Hannah stops at the door, looks back at Leti, and instead of it being the same as Tick's dream at this point, when Hannah looks back at Leti, Leti looks down and she's pregnant.
Yeah.
And Hannah doesn't say anything like she did in Tick's dream.
Right.
But she does start to burn up. And I felt like they focused on Leti burning a little bit longer than Tick, because you saw a little bit more, which I thought the effects on that was great.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, look at her burn up like that. But I felt like they focused on her burning more than they did Tick when he had the dream. So
since we've been seeing this dream, because it's been reoccurring, basically, I've always assumed that Tick represented Titus Braithwaite. So then when Leti had the dream, I immediately thought the baby represents Titus Braithwaite. And I feel like Hannah is trying to pass a message on through the bloodline. And the baby's going to have Braithwaite blood. So maybe that's the connection here. There's another theory that I think I'll save for later, but yeah, it's along those same lines. Okay, all right. Well, Leti does wake up from this dream, and she actually goes to find Tick, who's been working on these pages all night. And there's this moment that they have where, when Tick sees Leti, he, passionately, hugs her, and it's like this sweet, tender moment. And then the next second, Tick is like, I've deciphered these pages, yada, yada, yada. And Leti kind of gets this look on her face like, what just happened, So it's like the pages are like mesmerizing to Tick. Like it's interrupting his life. Right. But surprisingly though, like once he really gets into it, Leti is like co-signing it a little bit. She's like, yo, like that means you get the book of names. You not only have the spells, but how to do them, so you'll have the power or whatever. Yeah, because they learned through their conversation at this scene that they both had basically this similar dream. Leti didn't tell Tick that, in her dream she was pregnant. But they do learn that they have similar scenes. They talk about Hannah running out of the lodge as it's burning with this book up under her arm, which we learn is the Book of Names. Yeah. And I think the logic was like, you pregnant... House is on fire. Why would you stop to get a book? Oh, it's a magical book. Yeah. I gotta get that. But then we learned that, because of Tick and where his family has come from, the Tulsa riots, there's not really much information that they have about Tick's mother. So who do they go to try to find that information? Yeah. So we jumped to Montrose, and let me tell you, this scene, I was all like, first time Sammy has kind of stayed over. I was like, after the last episode where they connected and Montrose was all like, I was like, look at him. Go ahead. Sammy done cooked you some grits and bacon and stuff. Right. I was just like, this is so cute. And then here come Montrose, just strolling in. He was happy at first, but Sammy mentions, like, all you had to drink up in here was whiskey. So I went to the store to get some juice. And, I ran into this lady with this beautiful African scarf. Yeah. And immediately you see Montrose shift. Yeah. To literally trying to go back in the closet.
Yeah.
He got scared.
Literally in this episode, you saw as Montrose being like this, and then when he said he saw Bernice, the neighbor, he was like, oh, let me shut this door.
I kid you not, he did that old man shit that I be talking about, where they start complaining about every single thing.
Yeah.
Is this pork? I don't need pork.
I just grits so right, you know?
And Samuel's like, well, hell. He's like, well, hell. What you gonna complain about next? The coffee is too wet. It's got too much sugar.
Yeah.
I literally was like, you know what, dude? And Sammy was looking at him like, you're not gonna play me crazy this time around, you know? Which really, it sucks, because it's like you took this huge leap forward and then just fell right back. So Sammy's like, you know what, fine, bye, whatever. Chases him out in the hallway, and who do they run into?
We see Tick and Leti
and
coming to see Montrose.
And at that moment, Tick knew it was true.
And he utters something that I almost went into the TV and slapped him myself.
I turned into a straight up parent. Like, hey, who the hell you think you're talking to?
And that's exactly what Montrose said. You're not going to call me out my name, you know?
Now, it's like, I see Tick's point of view. Mm-hmm. After the explanation he received for why he got beat like he did was because he didn't want him to be soft. But again, also at the same time, I'm like, Tick, you a grown-ass man.
Yeah.
You a grown man, dude. And at the end of the day, that's still your father. Especially not in front of nobody else. You do not disrespect him like that.
In front of company.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is another scene that I felt like we see that another flash of Tick's anger issues. Again, I understand why he might have those anger issues. However, you're a grown man. You need to get this under control at this point, because it's like these little moments that they put throughout the season to show that Tick is not this kind, tender-hearted person that we think he is, because on a dime, he can turn, you know?
I mean, it's one of those things like, I get it. I get the frustration. I get the issues. I get it. But it was too far.
Yeah.
You know, it was too far. Luckily, Leti ends up getting the information they came for.
Yeah, and Letty's a bit shocked at this point. She really doesn't talk to Tick about what just happened. She just kind of is like, let me let that go.
For now.
Let me let it go. And she's like, I talked to Montrose about your mother's family. And she did have a cousin who lived in, I believe it was St. Louis.
St. Louis.
Mm-hmm. And we can go talk to a friend of her cousin's, Ethel.
Yeah.
No, the cousin's name is Ethel. The friend's name is Birdie. Yeah.
But again, another funny part though, when that did happen, I almost saw it in Letty's face where she's like, I gotta get my family shit in order. I don't want all this dysfunction.
Yeah.
Look, I need
this drama, Yeah. Yeah, but at this point, they figured out they gotta go to St. Louis. This is another funny thing, but basically we jumped to Hippolyta, and she's got Woody loaded up. She's like, hey Dee, let's go through the checklist. And unfortunately Dee's like, this is stupid at this point, because it was a tradition that she had with George. But next thing we see, and I don't know if we want to talk about that a little bit, because
I did. I thought it was important, because again, she's a young girl.
Yeah.
Something traumatic has just happened. Her father died, and Hippolyta has not fully processed that. She's not fully grieved. She's distracted herself, and she's not been present for Dee.
Yeah.
Like, all this stuff has happened. Okay, we ended up going to this museum with Tick and Leti and everybody, and they just make it back to Chicago. Nobody explains that to me. You freak out over Pops' atlas. Now we head to this place that I don't know why we're here. You go through all this rubble, and now you're leaving me again.
Yeah, yeah. But I kind of understand in the sense that Hippolyta, she's at a point where she's still grieving, where she can't even begin until she gets answers about the things that she needs.
Yeah.
She can't even begin to have that discussion with Dee at this point.
Yeah. She can't even begin to have conversations with anybody because they thought they was going to roll up and just borrow the car. And you know what? I was so happy to see this because everybody's got that friend that be like, yo, dog, let me, can I borrow some beer? And I'm like, can you borrow some, wait, what? They're like, what? Oh, can I borrow your truck to move stuff? They just assume that you don't have a life and you ain't got shit to do. And she literally let them know, like,
yeah,
nah.
It's so funny to watch Tick to be like, we just put out an edition of the guide. Like, why are you going on the guide trip? And Hippolyta's like, did George put you in charge of the guide before he died? And Tick's like, no, well, move the hell away from my car.
Right. Like, my car is not your car.
Yeah, man, she ran a stoplight. She was like, I'm so tired of your lies, you know?
But again, it's the manifestation of the anger and resentment she feels because she know they was lying when they told that story. It didn't even sound right, you know? God bless Aunjanue Ellis, man, because she made you feel, dude.
Right. But Leti actually ends up staying back in Chicago. Again, she saw Tick and Montrose and their issues, and she was like, let me fix this with my family. So she does end up staying back with Ruby, and they have this conversation, you know. Leti ends up apologizing to Ruby about lying to her about her mother's money, which she's still kind of lying to her. She knows that money didn't come from their mom. But she apologizes for, you know, doing what she did. Yeah,
she said, I was trying to hustle you, you know? And that's the thing that mom used to do, and I'm sorry for that. Now, the thing that got me about this scene, though, is they was hustling each other. At least Leti was being a little bit more forthcoming, but Ruby was like, oh, okay, girl.
Right.
And I'm like, you ain't got nothing to say, Ruby? Like,
keep on giving me the information.
She gave you the opus. She said, sorry about not telling you about mom's money. You know where the money came from now. So it's like, you playing the game. You playing the game.
Yeah. One of my favorite scenes, though, that we're jumping to right now is Hippolyta on the road.
Yeah.
She's going down a road listening to Josephine Baker, a song called, and I'm going to mispronounce this, Piel Canela. It's French. It was in French.
Yellow skin.
I took Spanish.
It's yellow skin.
Okay.
I think.
But she was listening to Josephine Baker. We see this, you know, motorcycle come up behind her, and at first, I was a little scared.
I
thought it was the Popos coming up like, whoop, whoop.
Right.
You know.
And you saw a little bit of fear in her face, in Ruby's face also as well, until it got closer and she was kind of like, oh.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why I appreciate this show because out of the things that I do know, I had never heard of this lady before.
Oh, really?
I had never heard of this woman, Bessie Stringfield, and it actually prompted me to do some research. So I was like, this is cool. And it turns out she was the first black woman to drive cross country, but she also served in World War II as a civilian dispatcher.
Yep.
A part of history.
Yep. And I actually knew about her. See, I had recognized her immediately as she drove up beside Hippolyta. I was like, I know who that is. Because I was interested in motorcycles at the time. We're not going to talk about what happened to my motorcycle, but I immediately recognized. No, it's Dad.
Oh, was it?
But immediately recognized Miss Bessie Stringfield driving by. At this point, we actually see Hippolyta go into her, basket to get a little bit of food on the road, and she actually finds the Orinthia Blue comic. Dee did draw her comic up before she left and put it in the basket for Hippolyta to find. Yeah.
That was a great scene. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. Then we jump to Leti and Tick in St. Louis. Tick in St. Louis with Miss Birdie. They're having this conversation about his mother's cousins, Ethel. They cousins, whatever. Ethel. And him, she says, Birdie and Ethel knew each other from the church. Tick finds out that there was some type of family book that Ethel did talk about a lot. However, it burned up in the Tulsa riots.
Right.
we jump back again to, and this is a lot of jumping around, so sorry you guys, but this is how the episode went. But we jump back to Leti and Dee in Chicago.
Yeah.
Leti is in the living room playing games with the kids, cussing them out.
She was like the cool auntie.
Right.
Right. And the kids are like, yo, is the food ready?
Yeah.
She said, let me go check on it so I can come back and whoop y'all ass or something that.
Right. But again, a callback to a previous episode in this scene is one of the kids, when he loses, he's like, man, when is Bobo coming back? He knew how to play, which we knew from Bobo, the previous episodes, is Emmett Till.
Yeah.
He ain't coming back, you know.
That was actually sad when I heard that. Yeah. So, but of course, Leti goes into the kitchen talking to Ruby, and Ruby's like, huh, girl, taste this. And Letty's like, is that garlic? And Ruby's like, you love garlic, whatever. She's like, maybe I'm developing an allergy. Or you're pregnant. And I immediately was like,
Ruby fishing for information in this scene, basically.
Yeah.
Because, again, she did that double talk kind of thing where it's like, Leti was asking her where she's staying. Oh, on the north side with a white man. And Ruby goes, change the subject immediately. She didn't answer any of Leti's questions pretty much. Yeah.
And you know what? I'll get there eventually, but it kind of jumps to the scene where Tick was in Birdie's house. He notices in the photo album like a birthmark and recognizes that he has the same birthmark. So he got his shirt all off in the mirror, and Birdie come in like like the phone, like the phone for you.
I'm sorry, I don't know about y'all, but if I would have walked into my living room and Tick would have had his shirt off, I'd have been like, all right, I didn't know it was this kind of party. Didn't know this is what you came here for.
That was a weird scene to me.
It was, because Birdie was
like young man. But it was also funny because the person on the phone is Leti talking about Hippolyta's had this orrery all this time, and it's open and it has coordinates in it, and you need to go help her because whatever she's walking into is going to be some danger. Ruby in there ear hustling, basically. Now, here's the thing that just kind of clicked to me or whatever. When Christina was talking to Ruby, talking about the magic is in your family, she didn't lie. I feel like she didn't lie. I feel like she led Ruby to believe it was her family. Ruby's got a dose of this magic and what she can do now. And if she has access to it, she's more motivated to go after it. But Christina knew that Leti was going to be pregnant, I felt like.
Yeah.
So
you feel it's one of those situations again where Christina didn't lie.
She didn't lie.
She just didn't give the whole truth.
I don't think Christina lies. I don't think she has to.
Yeah.
Like I just felt like she gave her the motivation she needed to get what she wants.
Yeah.
Which is often what Christina does.
Yeah. So basically at this point, Ruby is working for Christina.
Yeah.
She's finding out the information that Christina needs to get whatever, book of names, basically. Yeah. We do jump back to Hippolyta. She's arrived in Mayfield, Kansas to the observatory. She finds the machine that the coordinates on the orrery have led her to. And this scene, man, because at first the machine wasn't working, she's pressing buttons, and then she starts to figure everything out. And then we have this scene where there's like things that she's thinking about and she's writing things down. I really felt like this was a Katherine Johnson Hidden Figures type of scene.
It was. That's what I wrote down, and I like the way they showed like her thought process and how the flashes on the screen were the things she was working out in her brain and then copying it. I love that. But maybe I majored in mass communication. So I was looking at them equations like
I actually at a point like paused it and I was like reading stuff, trying to read stuff, and I was like, I have a theater degree. What the heck am I doing? I was like, play. Let me just not even equations.
Right. But it was really interesting. It was fun. And it kind of, now we knew she had this in her, but we haven't really seen her apply it to this extent.
Right.
We got a glimpse of it, but this was just full on, like, she should be at NASA.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So she figures out the machine, basically, and just when she gets it to, work in the way she wants to work it, She hears the police. They pop in. They find Hippolyta and like, what are you doing here? How did you get this machine on? Da 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 da. Tick comes in to save her. Yeah. He comes down the stairs, starts punching police officers
like
out.
A bat out of hell, too. I was like, I at first thought, is that even Tick? Like, how the hell did he
I was
get
like,
there?
how did he get there so fast?
Yeah, but another thing to point out, those were Lancaster's cops.
Yeah. They were keeping an eye on that machine.
And they know what the machine is and know what it's doing, so they're asking her, like, how did you get it to work? And
you know what? I think they know what the machine is, but they don't know how to work it.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah. They just know they're supposed to keep an eye on it, so Christina wouldn't get to it.
Right.
But in this scene, we actually see that Hippolyta actually ends up shooting one of the police officers. Yeah. And Tick and Hippolyta, pause for a second to, just gather themselves and like think about what happened. And before they can fully think about it, Hippolyta gets sucked into the portal.
I thought that was a very important scene, though. So we see Tick throw one of the cops into the portal, and you see Hippolyta almost hesitate to shoot the cop, knowing that she's in danger. But she does it, and I feel like in my head that's the first step to something. Not to say you go around shooting people or whatever, but it was the first step in this journey that she's about to go on.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Go ahead.
No, so she gets sucked into the portal and basically...
To me, this scene, and I'm not sure if this has any connection at all with what I'm about to say, but when she shoots to this other planet, basically, I was like, Paris Chariot! She her own comic, girl! Go ahead!
Yeah, this was so interesting because at first and again, when I'm watching these shows, I'm putting myself in the characters' positions. I was like, holy shit, Elon Musk done built look, where am I at? How am I out here and I'm not like suffocating and stuff? And then you see these two huge like X-Men Sentinels come towards her.
That's the best way to describe it.
And I was looking like, what the hell did I just get into?
Right. They actually pick her up, basically, and take her to this room, and she's unconscious for a while. She actually wakes up
naked.
Naked,
naked, which I'm like, hey, but this scene I specifically wrote down. This is what this scene it reminded me of 3 things. Quantum Leap.
Oh, yeah.
It reminded me of Alien because her jumpsuit that she put on. And it also reminded me when we meet Seraphine, the Afro-futuristic goddess of Steven Universe. She looked like Garnet. The live action of Garnet.
Yeah, I can see that.
She was beautiful, though.
But she also finds out that she has these devices in her arms that have been cut in her arms, and the Seraphina being does tell her, like, she comes into the room. Yeah. Hippolyta's like, you can't keep me here. And Seraphina's like, you ain't in no prison, girl. What you talking about? And it takes Hippolyta a little while to figure this out. But this is another scene where she's thinking. Yeah, she's in a situation. She immediately starts to figure out the solution. Yeah. So she's going through. Yeah, go ahead.
She actually, like, not for nothing, this speaks to how smart this character is. She goes into this frenzy of thought, figuring out where she is. And
if she's even still on an Earth, basically.
She basically figures out that I'm either in a multi-universe or I'm in the future because of the theory of relativity, space-time curves, and gravity. And apparently it was theorized that gravity would lessen over the years. And I was like, holy shit, man. I do actually know about that theory, but just the thought process of how she got there, it was just crazy. And if you didn't know any better, you would have thought she was she was panicking, she was crazy, she was thinking.
Really truly figuring things out.
Yeah.
And she actually does figure things out. She figures out a way to open the door to where she was. But here comes Seraphina. It's like, girl, you better back on up.
Oh, man.
And, the Seraphina being is like, where do you want to be? This is not a prison. Yeah. Where do you want to be? Name yourself. And Hippolyta's just like, I want to be dancing on stage in Paris with Josephine Baker. And...
Ziggy Sensa.
All of a sudden, she's on stage in Paris dancing with Josephine Baker.
That was so freaking funny because it's just kind of like, Can you imagine that happening? Like every time Sam had to like go somewhere and he would just wake up in these random situations.
My thing is like she summed up perfectly how I'd react in that situation because she was like, "What is going on? Step
The French girls are all like, "Move! You've got to go this way with your arms."
She did the best that she could, except at the end when they all showed their tatas, and she was like,
"Oh my god, that was hilarious!" But that was a wonderful scene because it's the introduction as to what's about to happen. Ends up bumping into Josephine Baker. Actually, backstage. Josephine Baker seeks her out. It's like, girl, look, we all have them days. You should have seen me in my first one, but you're going to have to clean it up, like, or whatever. Start showing her, like, the little steps or whatever. So she eventually gets it, and Lady Marmalade starts to play. And I look at Ingenue Ellis, I look at Hippolyta, and she's styled like Patti LaBelle. Did you notice that?
I did.
But she turned into a bad girl. She got, like, this level of rebel that just woke up inside of her. Like she's fully recognized how free she can be here, but it also triggers another feeling within her. So it's like the first time, it's just like the first time that she's being forced to deal with these emotions that she has, whether it has to do with George's death or just not being fully free.
And it kind of makes me think, how long has she been here?
You know, I feel like she's been there for a while.
How long did it take her to get to this spot? You know? And like you said, she finally gets to the spot where she's got these feelings. Oh, did you also see the Frida Kahlo? Toast. Yeah. I was like, oh, that was girl, y'all partying it up, toasting it up.
That was so amazing to me, though.
Yeah.
And it's different for me. Because you think about all the entertainers that fled to Paris and fled to Europe because they could not be treated equally in the United States. Because Josephine Baker was not the only one. You know, there were a few of them.
I just want to read this real quick because I did some research trying to buff up on Frida before I came here today to record this. And this, I kid you not, guys, I'm going to read this straight off of, I think it's like Wikipedia, and y'all tell me how y'all feel about this. So a Mexican painter employed a folk art style to explore questions of identity, post-colonization. Thank you. Gender, class, and race in the Mexican society. So basically, what's this episode about?
It's the same thing, but you know what? To take it a step further, there were multiple paths, similar stories all coming to the same conclusion. Josephine Baker, her journey parallels what Hippolyta has gone through. Josephine Baker found fame over in Paris, became one of the world's most notorious performers, and came back to the United States to fight for civil rights. She did not leave her people behind. She found her freedom and found a way to use it to help bring the rest of her community up.
And that's exactly what she did to Hippolyta.
Exactly.
But as Hippolyta and Josephine Baker are having this conversation, you know, Hippolyta admits that, you know, she's angry. She's angry at white people and sometimes she feels like even, you know, murdering one. And Josephine Baker's like, well, what are you gonna do with all this anger? And she kind of turns up and just says, I am Hippolyta. All of a sudden we have another transportation happening. And just to linger on that conversation was really deep because she talks about how she's shrunk herself in a sense, and this was just a smart way for white people to lynch her without a noose. We've all felt some level of this at some point in our lives. And I feel like her being able to kind of put a name to what she's feeling was a huge step because it also parallels, you know, the whole George situation, what was happening there. We'll see a little bit later. But the other thing I do want to point out before we hop to the next jump is St. Louis. Meet Me in Daegu was a play on Meet Me in St. Louis. Tick heads to St. Louis.
Hippolyta heads to Josephine Baker, who is from St. Louis. And I think it's, again, that parallel of we're all on different journeys, but we're ending up in the same place.
Yeah, I got you. So Hippolyta is, I'm sorry.
I love this one.
I abbreviate her as Hippo in here, so that's why I hesitated, guys. Sorry. But Hippolyta is then transported to the Kingdom of Dahomey.
So, I got this one. This is one of my favorite ones.
No, this was my favorite one.
No, I want it.
Okay, well, you're not going to have the whole thing.
I want it.
No.
So you immediately see her kind of jump to this like tribal-esque setting. I immediately recognize it as the Mino.
Yeah.
The tribe of Dahomey. And basically, this was a royal guard comprised of mostly women. This is basically
female, actually.
No, it was mostly women.
Okay.
It was mostly, there were some men, but it was mostly women. In real life, I'm speaking in real life history. And basically, they were the end all be all. This is what the Dora Milaje is modeled after.
Yeah, these bad mama jammas right here. They were feared.
Yeah.
By the French.
They were the epitome of the Amazons.
Yeah.
They were called the Dahomey Amazons. They were brutal. They were violent. Decapitations. They would fight their ass off. If you were a man and you tried to sleep with one of the Mino, excuse me, you were executed because it was a form of treason. Because you're trying to get them pregnant, which means they can't fight. This was the perfect place for her to be.
Yeah, because she actually ends up fighting a Mino named Nawi, who was actually, if I read this right, the oldest living Amazon of that tribe, Mino of that tribe. She lived to be, I think, 100 years old. But she was also known to be one of the most accomplished, or maybe like brutal of the Mino.
You could see it in her appearance. She had scars everywhere, and just the way that she was instructing Hippolyta, as well as the level of respect everyone else showed her, you saw that she was the queen.
I feel like, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I feel like this could have been in Black Panther, because she was like, you might be asking yourself, why are you here?
But this was perfect, though. So again, you guys, when you think about Hippolyta, she was the queen of the Amazons.
She was in Greek mythology.
She was the queen of the Amazons here. He's also, which shows you can be whoever you want to be as long as you claim the name.
Yeah. So we go through this, several times where Nawi is, fighting Hippolyta, and, we get to where Hippolyta gets enough strength and enough skill where she finally beats Nawi. She gets her crown, which is this Trojan looking type of helmet, which I absolutely loved. And then they go into battle with
I'm assuming it's the French. If we're basing it off of the real life.
Yeah.
The French tried to colonize Dahomey. It didn't work out too well.
Yeah. But Hippolyta goes into this speech where it's kind of similar to what Nawi was saying. Basically, you might be asking yourself, why are you here? But it's basically, she changes it up a little bit to say, we didn't believe them when they told us our rage isn't ladylike, which, let me stop there. Because I know if you are I know me, I'm not going to speak for everybody else, but being a Black female and at work, you have to be careful. I feel like I have to step on eggshells in order to avoid
that angry Black woman.
Yes, moniker. That stigma, and I feel like nobody else other than a Black female has to do that. Because a man can get on the phone and just say whatever he wants to say. Oh, that's just Greg, da-da-da-da. But if I were to say the same things, HR, I'm angry. I'm a Black woman. I'm an angry Black woman. Yeah.
I'll tell y'all a secret. I work in human resources. And there's been plenty of situations where I've been called in to fix these problems where I'm like, that's not a problem that needs to be fixed. So the speech goes on to say that my rage is too much, my violence is too much, I'm not ladylike, because back in the day, especially in this period, which is how the Mino were kind of formed, they were all of the quote unquote rowdy women who did not want to have babies, who were angry. You know, they trained them to be fighters, and that's how this was built up. So I guess I say all that to say is I really am a big fan of women being able to stand up for themselves, and if they don't fucking feel like smiling, to not smile.
Yeah. Yeah.
People in general, I'm a big proponent of, like, if you don't feel like smiling, if you don't feel like laughing, if things are not okay, you don't have to put on a front, but you must defend yourself. You have the right to defend yourself.
And you say people in general and women. I'm here with you for that, because typically women are told to shut up and smile.
Yeah.
You have to.
Why are you looking so mean?
Yeah. I hate that.
You're in my fucking face. That's why.
Yeah. But I'm with you. If you don't feel like smiling, don't smile. Yeah. If somebody says you're not acting ladylike, okay.
Did they make you the ladylike officer? You know, but I liked that, and at the end it was like a realization. I am Hippolyta.
I am Hippolyta,
George's wife.
Yeah. Yep. And then we get another transportation to Hippolyta, similar to how we saw in the first episode, in bed with George. She opens her eyes and says, "George Freeman, what are you looking at?"
I love.
And here comes George behind her.
Oh my gosh. But this was different though, because she starts telling him about all her adventures, and he ain't looking at her crazy or nothing. This was so awesome. You know, she's like talking about everywhere she's been. Now think in terms of like time and space. She could have been gone for 100 years, and it could just seem like a second once, you know, it's time to come back. But she stops herself. There's another realization of an emotion that she's felt and who it's actually directed at. Right. You want to take it?
Well, no, you can take it.
Okay. So she starts talking to George, and she starts talking about how for the longest time she's felt away, and she didn't know how to identify. She thought she was tired, you know, but it was really she was angry. Not just at the world, but she was angry at George, because George, she was supposedly his end-all be-all. He saw her for who she was. He knew she had this big, beautiful brain and this big ambition, and just what she did with like Harris Chariot, you know, he knew all of that stuff, but he allowed her to shrink herself for his comfort, so he can go off in the world and accomplish what he wants to accomplish and not have to worry about her safety.
Knowing that she was safe at home.
And that made her angry, and I understood why. Because a lot of women feel that way. Or I can't even say feel that way. They're put in those positions where they have to kind of choose ambition, a career, over maybe taking care of a family. Like they can't have it both. And the men are okay, and they don't encourage them to go after what they want. And for a moment there, thank goodness, my right mind kicked in, because in my head, I'm like, he finna say something dickish. And I thought he might, but then he stopped himself. He was like, you're right. Yeah. He fully acknowledged it.
Accepts it, acknowledges it, and apologizes for it. And this is such a beautiful moment between George and Hippolyta, because I feel in this scene, she finally got to tell George how she felt, because she didn't really get to do that before he died. And then to have George acknowledge it and just apologize, I felt it was a very good start to a close for them. The way of saying goodbye. Yeah, because she's been able to reconcile all the resentment she's had through life. She's getting to a point of acceptance of losing her husband, because I think in her head she realizes that this can't last forever. It just feels good for the moment, and she's getting what she needs out of it. And the next jump she gets to make with George. I believe her words were, "I am Hippolyta, the Discoverer." I think it is. And then we get another transportation, and this is her trip. This is her final trip. Again, going back to episode 1, where George was like, on the next guy trip, let's go together. Well, that never happened. However, this is that trip for them too, for those two. I'm not gonna lie, I got some waterworks by this point of the scene. Because the scene is Hippolyta is basically the Orinthia blue character that Dee drew for both her and George in her comics.
It's fully realized, and it's funny because there's which I love that Lovecraft Country does. There's this kind of spoken word playing in the background. Mm-hmm. I am not real. I'm just like you. ... You don't exist in society. Black people are myths. This is by Sun Ra, which I remember this very clearly because I remember thinking and trying to process it, and I'm like, holy crap. Holy crap. From the moment, and this is where I don't want to offend anybody, but for the moment we got over here, we've been told that we were one thing and this is all we can absolutely do. And unfortunately, systemically, a lot of us are still in that mindset. Mm-hmm. In essence, we're myths. Mm-hmm. When I go to an event and code switching, yes, I do it. I have to do it. And I speak one way, which is professional and polite, and then I'm in another setting, and I'm like, oh, hell, da, 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 da. Mm-hmm. People are looking at me like, you're so professional. How can you act like that? Can I be multifaceted? like, don't believe the myth of what you think we're supposed to be. We're all types of people. And I feel like this is what this episode really is about. Mm-hmm. Another thing to point out, Sun Ra, his journey parallels Hippolyta's. Mm-hmm. He was one of the first people to claim he was abducted by benevolent beings. Benevolent. I can't get it out. Malevolent? But basically, prior to there was even a thought of a flying saucer, he had claimed that he had been abducted by these beings who told him to drop out of school, that school was not going to be for him. He was going to find his voice in music. And when you think about it from that perspective, you're kind of like, the hell's wrong with you? But those beings told him, or actually said, I was sent here because of your ancestors. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be here until I pick out some of you to take back with me. Mm-hmm. Does it make sense now?
I think so.
So what happens with Hippolyta, at this point, Seraphine comes back, and it was like, ha 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 ha, you have named yourself. You have found yourself.
Now that you've named yourself, you can fully integrate into our society, basically.
Yeah, and basically that is, she's been chosen for something almost like a intergalactic goddess, if you think about it.
Yeah. Seraphine tells her that she no longer needs the devices in her wrist anymore. Once, now that she's named herself, she can, transport herself to anywhere she wants, without those, things in her arms. But at this point, Hippolyta is like, I don't even know how to begin to, if I go back to my home. It was beautiful,
yeah.
I'm not even sure where to begin to fit who I am now into that world. But she does eventually decide to go back because of Dee, of course. Dee. She just can't leave Dee there.
But I also feel like she's found this level of freedom and this level of self-awakening. She knows who she is now. She can fully come back to this world and teach her baby girl to be everything she wants to be, and not have her fall into that same cycle. I also feel like now that she's really been awoken, she's a part of this story full-fledged now.
Well, yes. Even more so because she does end up saying, I want to go back to Earth. Mm-hmm. When we see the portal again in the observatory, it's not Hippolyta we see coming through the portal, though. It's Tick. And Tick, he went for it on his own little journey, basically. Apparently. And when he comes back, he actually has a book in his hand, and the book is Lovecraft Country
by George Freeman. Now, this was the part that stuck me, because I was like, holy crap. Because at first, because I watch this show usually about 3 times. Once to enjoy it, second time to point out all my notes, and then the third time is usually during editing here. Around that part, I was like, oh, he got the book of names. And I was like, hold the hell up. That said Lovecraft Country on it. So I froze it, and I kind of looked online as well. And I was like, no. I can't be so my thought process was he went to another part of the multiverse here. And in this universe, George has written a book about all of these things that they're going through currently and presently. And I was like, I don't know.
It could either be that or that is their family book. He somehow went back and found that book, which I don't know. I guess we'll find out in future episodes. But what we also see here is because Tit can't find Hippolyta anywhere in the observatory. He ends up running out without her. But then the camera zooms in to the dead police officer that Hippolyta shot. But up under him is the Arinthia Blue comic that Dee wrote. She's actually got on it, written by Dee Freeman. But again, if you guys remember, Hippolyta was writing down her formulas and everything on the back of that comic. So not only now do the Order of the Ancient Dawn, Sons of Adam, whatever, know how to work this machine now. They also have Dee's name. Which
comes up in the trailer for the next episode. I don't want to go there because I'm scared. I guess just a little bit. The next episode, I left it like at that ending because I got a little bit afraid of what actions are going to be taken against Dee.
Oh man, that preview for the next episode, it scared me a little bit. Dee has no idea of anything that is going on at this point. However, she's been thrust into this world where not only there's magic, but there's also monsters, it looks like.
And racists. Cops. And it's like she's not, number one, she can't defend herself because she's not fully aware of what she's defending herself against. Hippolyta, I hope she took a portal back to Chicago. I'm hoping that's what's happened, because I feel like with this journey that started with her shooting the one cop, defending herself, going through with Josephine Baker, becoming a Mino warrior, up into the Discover, I feel like she has all the tools that she possibly needs to navigate this situation, and I just wish these motherfuckers would try her. That scene where she got the guy's neck and just curtsied it around it and then pop like that, I was like...
That's what I was just thinking about. Like, is she going to pull out these Mino moves? On these old man pastors cops,
Something's going to happen with her to where she's using this new awakened version of herself to defend her family. But I need y'all to start talking to each other.
For real. If y'all would just talk to each other, this would have been over.
Just for the sake of protection, man. This is some scary shit. But the theme that I really wanted to drive home, and this was such an Afrofuturistic episode. And when you think about what that means, that's the George Clintons. That's the Janelle Monáes. That's the Patti LaBelle. They're constant. Earth, Wind, and Fire. Missy Elliott. Blerd science fiction. I feel like this was a gift for us, and people kind of like scoff when they hear the term Afrofuturistic. Why is that funny to you? I don't understand why people don't buy into the idea that Black people could be into science fiction the way we are. But the other thing that I wanted to point out is, come for me in the comments if you want to. I don't care. This show is heavily influenced by Nightmare on Elm Street.
We can see that in the next episode. I think there has been some in the previous episodes.
I marked them down.
Really, truly, more in the next episode. For the previews, you saw the little girls jumping rope, which is clearly Nightmare on Elm Street.
Episode 3, the basement scene with Leti and the spirit head coming out. Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. The transformation from episode 5, where the eyeball in the mouth. Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. When you see this episode, the same they're having the same dream, and the thought process is the child is the link to the Braithwaite blood. Dream Child or Nightmare on Elm Street period. We're having the same dream. How is that possible? Like, you see this, and I see a lot of elements in Shining in this show. And I feel like Miss Green is doing that just specifically for us. Closing notes. MVPs? What do we want? And we want to call anybody else? We know who the MVP is.
I know. I was like, is there a question at this point who the MVP is? I Hippolyta. Most definitely MVP of this episode. Yeah. Again, just a great episode. Again, I feel like I say that every week, but they've been coming with the greatness every week. That every episode is getting is better and better than the last. I am super excited. I'm sad that we've only got 3 episodes left in the series. I'm sad to see it go, but I'm super excited to figure out the finale, and figure out what's going to happen to these group of people.
You know, the other good thing I just thought about, though, this show has deviated so much from the book that if you haven't read the book yet, you can jump right into it as soon as this season is over. And I promise you won't be disappointed, because even from the glances I've taken, I'm like, holy crap, this is completely different. So
yeah. All in all, great episode. Can't wait for next Sunday. It's gonna be another good one, I feel.
Oh yeah, you guys, thank you for rocking with us as we break these episodes down. We hope that you do get a kick out of some of these things that we see, because we get a kick out of some of the things you guys find and post in the comments. So we're curious, how did you feel about episode 7? I am. Drop down in those comments, let us know. Until the next breakdown, though, I'm Killer Cam.
I am Monique.
Hold on. We are Blerd Up. We will see you on the next episode of Blerd Up Reviews.
Thanks, guys.